Snow whispered across the black pines like a warning. It didn't fall, it hunted. Thick and white, crawling like ash from a sky that forgot how to be kind. Asterisk, the cabin stood alone, a single rib of timber in a sea of white. No neighbors, no horses. In the stable. Just a forge gone cold and a single candle fighting the dark asterisk inside. Elias Rohn sat by the hearth, sharpening a knife too old to matter. His hands cracked, blistered, blackened by years of iron and loss, moved slowly. Not from age, from grief. The kind that folds into the bones and stays there like winter. Asterisk in the corner. His son Toby sat cross-legged on a wool blanket, cradling a carved wooden fox. He didn't speak, hadn't for 3 years. The doctor called it trauma. Elias just called it silence. The boy had seen too much the night his mother died. Blood soaked into the floorboards. A midwife too late. A cry never heard. Toby watched the candle. Elias watched the door. And the storm watched them both. Then asterisk a knock. Asterisk no. Not a knock. A scrape like nails on wood. Elias rose without a word. The wind howled louder as he stepped toward the door. The knife still in his hand. Asterisk another scrape. Then stillness. He opened it. And the night bled in. Asterisk she stood there, barefoot in the snow, belly round with child, eyes hollow with something colder than frostbite. Her lips were split. Her arms bruised. One hand clutched a shawl more blood. Then wool. She said nothing, just swayed. Asterisk, then fell. Asterisk. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. He laid her near the fire, wrapped in every blanket he could find. Her breath rattled like dry leaves. Frost clung to her lashes. She hadn't eaten in days. She was maybe 16. 17 if you squint. Asterisk Toby brought a basin of warm water. Silent as always. He dipped a rag, handed it to his father. Asterisk Elias. Wiped the girl's forehead. Her skin was ghost pale. A scar ran from the corner of her eye to her temple, jagged like lightning. She stirred. Mumbled something. He leaned closer. Her lips moved again, barely. Asterisk, don't let him find me. Then nothing. Elias sat back, heart hammering in a rhythm he thought long gone. He looked at his son, who stared at the girl as if he already knew her, knew the shape of her pain, knew the kind of monster that made someone run barefoot through. A storm. She didn't wake for 2 days. When she did, it was with a scream, not loud, but raw, like it scraped its way up from the gut. Asterisk Elias was there. So was Toby. The boy held out a chipped mug of warm broth. She flinched. Asterisk, then her eyes landed on the fire. She calmed a little. Elias crouched beside her. You're safe, he said. She shook her head, curled tighter into the blanket. I'm not, she whispered. He never asked for her story. Not then. He just let her stay. The cabin had 1 room, 1 bed, and a loft with a rope ladder Toby rarely used. Elias moved his cot beside the forge, gave her the bed. That was it. Asterisk, no promises, no words. Just shelter. Asterisk, she didn't give her name. Wouldn't speak unless spoken to. Ate little. Slept even less, but she watched. Watched Elias split wood in the freezing dawn. Watched Toby feed the fire, sweep the floor, arrange his carved animals in perfect circles. Watched how they moved. Like ghosts beside each other, used to pain but never pushing it on anyone else. Asterisk, and slowly she started to breathe again. One morning, Elias was in the shed, trying to coax the forge to life with half-frozen bellows. The girl stepped in, her hands trembling but stubborn. Show me how, she said. He didn't ask what she meant. Asterisk, he just handed her the iron tongs. By the end of that week, she'd help mend a wagon wheel, boil snow for water, and shoot a squirrel clean through the eye. Asterisk her name, when she finally offered it, came not through speech but through silence. Asterisk Toby handed her one of his carved animals, a fox. Asterisk she took it with both hands, clutched it like a lifeline. Asterisk then she whispered, Sadie. Just that, said he. The winter deepened. Asterisk ice-coated the insides of the windows. Wolves howled too close. Supplies ran thin. The nearest town was 2 days away on horseback, and they'd eaten through the last of the jerky. Asterisk Elias stood by the window one night, staring into the storm. Sadie was by the fire, sewing a ripped sleeve. Her hands were red with cold. Asterisk. You ever held a gun? He asked, eyes still on the snow. She didn't answer. Because if they're out there, whoever you ran from, they won't stop just because you're pregnant. Her needle paused. I know, she said softly. That was all, but it was enough. That night he heard her crying in her sleep. Not loud, but the kind of sob that came from the marrow. Elias didn't wake her, just placed another log on the fire and stood there, backlit by the flames, like a statue of some forgotten god, weathered, broken, watching over the wounded. A week later, a letter came by courier, asterisk torn edges. Number. Return name. Just a single line scrawled in dirt brown ink. I know where you are. Asterisk. Sadie's hands shook when Elias handed it to her. She didn't cry. Didn't speak. Just nodded once. He burned the letter in the forge. Asterisk. The next morning, she stood outside in the cold, practicing with the rifle. Asterisk. Her aim was shaky. Breath too fast, but she didn't stop. Elias stood behind her, arms crossed. Asterisk. When you pull the trigger, he said, make sure you mean it. Asterisk. I already do, she whispered. The wind howled. So did the wolves. Then came the hoof prints, just past the tree line. Fresh, deep, too heavy for deer. Too deliberate for elk. Elias followed them for a mile before he saw it, a single silver coin nailed to a birch, not a message, a mark, one he hadn't seen in years and never wanted to see again. Asterisk. He turned back. Heart pounding. Behind him, the snow began to fall harder. Asterisk. That night, Sadie cleaned the rifle in silence. Asterisk. Toby carved a small wooden figure beside her, another fox. But this one had a scar above its eye. Elias watched them, and for the first time in 5 years he felt something other than sorrow. Asterisk. Not hope. Not yet, but a stirring, like something long buried, starting to breathe again. The storm raged louder outside. Roof groaning. Windows rattling. Asterisk. But in the cabin the fire burned steady. Asterisk. And 3 souls, one broken, one mute, one shivering with new life, sat in quiet defiance of the cold. Not a family. Not yet, but something close, something almost holy. Asterisk. Asterisk. Snow still blanketed the pines, but something had changed in the wind. It no longer carried just cold, it carried eyes. The kind that watched from far off and waited. Asterisk. Eddie woke earlier now. She moved with purpose, feeding the fire before dawn, fetching water from the half-frozen stream, helping Elias shoe a broken-legged mule from a nearby rancher who paid in deer meat and firewood. Her belly had grown, yet her spine stayed straight. There was something Volf-like in her now, guarded, alert, hard to scare, but her hands still trembled when thunder cracked too close. Toby rarely left her side. He followed like a shadow, never speaking, just watching. The two had begun to share a silent language. Small gestures, glances. He carved her a rabbit one day, placed it beside her boots with a string of pine needles tied in a bow. She bent down, smiled for the first time in Elias's memory, and whispered, "Thank you." Toby didn't smile back, but he stayed. On a still afternoon thick with gray light, a rider passed through town. Asterisk. Leather duster, gold tooth, gun on each hip. His name was Clint Maddox. The saloon fell quiet when he stepped in. He ordered coffee, black, not whiskey, not rum. Just black coffee, like a man planning to stay sharp. Asterisk. Then he pinned a paper to the beam beside the piano. Asterisk. A hand-drawn sketch. Asterisk. A girl with a scar down her face, a swollen belly, eyes that looked straight at you. A soft murmur swept the bar. Daughter? Someone asked. Asterisk. No, Maddox said flatly. Property. Then he left. Asterisk. Elias heard about it 2 days later when the preacher came by with canned peaches and concern. He described the man, the sketch, the voice. Asterisk. Elias's jaw tightened. His hands, normally slow and steady with iron, went still. Asterisk. He said nothing. Just thanked the man and closed the door. Asterisk. Sadie was on the porch, whittling. She looked up, saw the storm in his eyes, and nodded. He's here. That night she told Elias everything, not in one flood, but in pieces. Asterisk. Her real name wasn't Sadie. She didn't say what it was. Just that her mother died when she was 10. That Maddox, her stepfather, used to come home with blood on his boots and stories of men who needed killing. That when she turned 14, the stories changed, and when she finally ran, she ran with nothing. No coat, no coin, just a 6-week-old secret inside her and a scar down her cheek. Asterisk. Elias didn't speak. He just tossed more wood on the fire and handed her a worn rifle cloth. Then we make ready, he said. They started with the windows, planking them from the inside, reinforced the door, moved supplies to the root cellar. Every footstep outside was watched. Every passing bird noted. Asterisk. Sadie taught herself how to snare rabbits, how to load a pistol blindfolded, how to tell the difference between a deer's tracks and a man dragging his foot from an old gunshot wound. Elias didn't ask how she knew that last part. Asterisk. One night, while the fire cracked and Toby slept curled in a nest of quilts, Elias sat cleaning his revolver by lantern light. Sadie sat opposite, wrapping herbs in cloth strips for trade. Asterisk. I used to think dying was the worst thing, she said quietly. Now I think it's forgetting who you are. Elias looked up. I forgot for a long time, she said. But not anymore. Asterisk. He didn't answer. Just watched the fire reflect in her eyes, no longer afraid. Just burning. Then came the tracks again. Asterisk. Deeper this time. 3 horses and boot prints leading toward the ravine. Just half a mile from the cabin. Elias followed at dawn. He moved quiet, careful, like he had years ago when he tracked Confederates through bayou swamps. His coat was thin, his boots old, but his eyes, though still burned sharp. He found what he expected, a small camp. Just off the ridge, cold fire, horse droppings, a bent tin cup with initials scratched in the side. CM. He didn't touch it, just turned and walked back. But he walked faster. Asterisk. That night, Sadie held the rifle like it was part of her arm. He'll come before the snow ends, Elias said. She nodded. He always did. There was no fear in her voice, just memory. 2 days later, the preacher was found beaten outside his chapel, jaw broken, fingers twisted. Someone had asked him where Elias Rohn lived. He didn't answer. They left him anyway. A warning or a promise? The town changed after that? Asterisk. Doors locked early. Candles dimmed faster. Asterisk. Elias took Sadie and Toby deeper into the woods to a cave he used to trap in long ago just in case. Stocked it with jerky, blankets, and flint. Asterisk. 3 days' food, he told her. If it comes to it, take the boy and go. Don't wait. Asterisk. And you? Asterisk. I don't run. Asterisk. She looked at him, then not like a girl looking at a savior, but like a woman seeing a man stand beside her, not in front. Asterisk. She said, I won't leave unless you make me. That evening, Toby slipped a folded piece of paper onto Sadie's lap. It was a drawing. Asterisk. A tall man with dark eyes and a gold tooth, fire behind him. A small girl holding a baby. A blacksmith standing between them. Sadie stared at it, then looked at Toby. He nodded, his first gesture of belief. Later, when the fire burned low and the wind howled like memory, Elias found Sadie outside. Asterisk. She stood barefoot in the snow, belly full, arms at her side, eyes closed, breathing. Asterisk. Like she was becoming the land itself, scarred, silent, enduring. He stepped beside her. You cold? Asterisk. No, she said. I just wanted to feel the earth. Just in case. He didn't ask what she meant, but his heart clenched all the same. Inside the cabin, Toby stirred in his sleep. The candle flickered. A shadow passed the window. Asterisk. No sound, just a whisper of movement, and the smell of smoke on the wind. Asterisk. The snow fell slow that morning. Heavy, like ash. Asterisk. Inside the cabin, silence reigned. Not the kind that soothed, the kind that braced. Asterisk. As Sadie sat by the window with the rifle across her knees, her breath shallow, her eyes fixed beyond the trees. Elias stood by the hearth, hammering out the last piece of metal he'd ever forge. Not a horseshoe, not a blade, but a single iron bar, crude and jagged, the weight of finality in its shape. Asterisk. Toby crouched beside the door, clutching a wooden figure, a bear this time. Painted black with a red streak down its back. No one spoke. They all knew. Today would come with blood. Asterisk by midday. The first shot cracked through the valley. It wasn't close, but it was meant to be heard. Seti flinched. Elias didn't move. Asterisk. They want us scared, he muttered, wrapping leather around his knuckles. Means they're not ready. Asterisk. Sadie stood. Then we are. The horses came through the trees just before dusk. 3 riders, Maddox in. The middle, long black duster, silver revolvers, gold tooth flashing with every grin, his hair gray now. Skin wrinkled from sun and cruelty. But the eyes, the same hollow pits that raised a child on fear. Asterisk. Beside him rode 2 men, younger, greedy, laughing as they circled the cabin like wolves scenting meat. Asterisk. Elias stepped out first, no gun in hand. Just the iron bar. Asterisk. Sadie stood. Behind him, rifle aimed. Toby in the shadows, silent, waiting for a signal that might never come. Well, I'll be damned, Maddox said, sliding off his horse with a slow smile. Eli Roan, thought you were dead or drunk. Elias said nothing. You always had a thing for broken things, Maddox sneered. Didn't think you'd stoop to raising my leftovers. Sadie stepped into view, his face twisted, not surprise, not anger, but ownership. Asterisk. There you are, he whispered. You look just like your mother did. Before she bled out. Asterisk. Sadie's jaw clenched. But she didn't lower the rifle. Elias stepped forward. She's not yours. Asterisk. Maddox laughed. Asterisk. She's mine by blood. So's the little bastard inside her? Asterisk. No, Sadie said, voice like flint. That child is mine, and I won't let you touch her. Maddox raised his hand, a quick signal. One of his men drew. But Sadie fired first. Asterisk. The man dropped. Screaming, shot clean through the thigh. Asterisk. The second man pulled his revolver. But Elias was already moving. Asterisk. He surged forward, iron bar swinging like a vengeful god. It cracked against the man's wrist, sent his gun flying. Elias followed through, elbow to jaw, then a savage kick to the ribs. The man hit the snow and didn't rise. Then Maddox raised both guns. Elias turned, arms wide, blocking Sadie. Asterisk. No! She screamed. The first shot hit Elias in the side. He staggered, but didn't fall. The second shot missed. Sadie fired again. Asterisk. But Maddox ducked behind a tree. Reloading. Asterisk. Blood poured from Elias's coat. But he stood firm. Asterisk. Behind him, Sadie dropped the rifle, dragged him back toward the cabin, step by agonizing step. Inside, Toby stood frozen. Take him! Sadie gasped, pushing Elias into Toby's arms. Asterisk. I'll end this. Asterisk. No, Elias grunted, coughing blood. You're not ready. She looked at him, tears brimming, face streaked with soot and snow. I wasn't ready the first time, she said. But I'm not that girl anymore. She stepped out alone, no gun, just her hands raised. Asterisk. The storm was fading, but her voice rang clear. Clint Maddox. She yelled, You want the child? You want the past? He stepped out slowly. I want what's mine. Asterisk. You had it, she said, and you broke it. He grinned. Don't matter. Still mine. Sadie nodded once, then reached into her coat and threw something at his feet. Asterisk. A locket, the one he'd torn from her neck years ago. He bent to pick it up. Asterisk. And in that moment, Toby, small and silent, stepped out behind him. Asterisk. He held Elias's old revolver with both hands. It shook, but it didn't fall. Asterisk. Maddox turned. Surprised? Too slow? The gun fired. The bullet struck Maddox in the shoulder, spun him around. Face contorted in rage, he raised his pistol, but Elias was there, Asterisk dragging himself forward. Blood trailing behind like ink, he swung the iron bar one last time. It collided with Maddox's hand, a sickening crack. The gun dropped, then silence. Maddox collapsed, not dead, but done. Asterisk broken by the very hands that once fled him. Sadie stood over him, breathing hard, then slowly lowered herself beside. Elias, he was pale, fading. You did good, he whispered. Asterisk. You're not done, she said. Pressing her hand to his wound, Asterisk. Toby knelt beside them, face stricken. Elias smiled weakly at the boy. You're brave, he rasped. Braver than I ever was. The boy reached for his hand, held it tight, and for the first time in years, Elias closed his eyes, not from pain, but peace. Weeks passed, snow thawed. Grass broke through the frost. Sadie buried Maddox with her own hands. No marker, just a stone and a prayer whispered through gritted teeth. Elias survived, barely. She tended him day and night. Fed him broth, changed his bandages, sang low lullabies to calm his nightmares. When the baby came. It was a stormy night, she screamed, bit down on leather, sweated and sobbed. Elias and Toby stayed outside, guarding, pacing, praying, and when the cry came, it was like the land exhaled. A girl, small, healthy, loud, they named her Clara Hope. The forge never opened again. Elias sold it that spring, used the money to build a second room on the cabin. Sadie stayed, not because she had nowhere to go, but because she had finally found a place to stand. Toby began to speak again. Not much, just a few words at first, then full sentences. One night he told Sadie, "You're our fire now." And she cried, but didn't look away. Years later, Clara ran through the grass with a wooden fox in hand. Elias sat on the porch, gray-haired, slower but smiling. Sadie leaned against the railing, arms crossed, watching the girl with quiet joy. You know, Elias said, I thought I took you in to save you. She looked over at him. But you didn't. He nodded. No, you saved me. Sadie smiled, soft, steady, a storm weathered, a woman rebuilt. The wind moved gently through the trees now, no longer bitter, just alive.